A tip-off, your weekly Monday through Friday NBA handicapping show. I'm your host, Steve Merrill, and this is Wager Talk TV. And by the way, bonus episodes for baseball this weekend. We don't have basketball on the show on the weekend, but we do have baseball, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, Saturday and Sunday. Matt Joseph stepping in to host, mid-major Matt, who we all love for watching the NBA show and talking about his Sixers, who have approximately 3 days left in their season as they play tonight and Sunday, I believe. Brett Brown might have 3 days left in his career by that math as well. But once again, MLB first pitch this weekend, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And I just did the baseball show, the weekday edition. I forgot to mention Andy Lang's UFC live show will be around 6 p.m. Eastern this Saturday. Fantastic in-game, in-fight wagering opportunities. So baseball, noon Eastern, MMA show 6 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. But this is NBA tip-off. Tony Finn, what are your thoughts?
I was just going to say that you keep talking about that in-game live, and I keep forgetting to check in with Andy on that. But are they, real quickly for the audience as well, are they doing is it just in-game for MMA, or are they broadening that too, are they discussing other sports while the MMA is going?
Well, I've gotten to know Andy real well from the NASCAR show. Rocky Atkinson and I have been doing that every Wednesday at 1 Eastern for months now. And Rocky and I both were in the live chat, and we started getting bombarded with NASCAR questions and NBA questions, and we were giving some info. And then some of the people said, "Hey, we want MMA. This is a UFC show." So
okay, that answers my question.
Yeah, but there's a lot of downtime. I mean, in fact, when I chimed in, they were talking about NFL, and Andy was talking about NFL. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a very casual atmosphere. It's like 5 hours straight, obviously. So
I really enjoy doing the show with the Grid and with those guys doing the in-game lives that we've done. We started like last baseball a year ago. But I was just curious because if they're doing something that's a little broader than the MMA, I'd love to be in the to contribute, whether it be in the chat room, whatever it be. But I need to find out. I don't want to jump in there and start giving.
Well, the thing about the fights, there's like a 20-minute downtime between fights, and that's kind of when we go off topic a little. So yeah, I mean, if there's in-game baseball, I never even thought, because you're an in-game guy, Tony. I mean, in-game baseball, basketball would be pretty cool. And Rocky and I were definitely answering some NASCAR and NBA questions. So
we'll talk about it.
Open forum. But once again, that's around, I said it's usually when the first fight starts. So check in around 6, 7 Eastern tomorrow on Saturday. And then it goes all the way through the main event, baseball at noon Eastern. NBA tip-off, though, live Monday through Friday, 3 Eastern. And that's what we've got right now. And, guys, we got a game in progress. Let me start with you, Rob. Raptors up by 14 late third quarter. They went off as an 11-point favorite. We mentioned that the Nets might not have much. It looks like, Rob, that they did not have much here in Game 3.
No, and I'm happy to announce that I finally had a winner. Thank God.
The first half we talked about.
I was on the first half here.
Nice.
Yes, they released it last night. It was -4.5. Went as high as 6.5. Landed 6, I think, for the first half. And, guys, when we talked about it briefly yesterday, we mentioned the fact that with Toronto, you wouldn't have to guess how they would come out at the start of this game after being pushed by Brooklyn the game before. And there was no guesswork. Their defense was stifling from the get-go. The offense wasn't pretty right off the bat, but the second quarter it got better and they stretched the lead a little bit. And really, covering 6 was never in doubt from about the 7-minute mark of the second period on, maybe even a little longer. So, happy to have that one in the bag, Steve, because yesterday wasn't great.
Well, and yesterday might not have been great, but the past few weeks were pretty good for you. You had a lot of two-of sweeps, I remember, about a week ago. Ski, what were your thoughts on Thursday? Your hell yes Lakers obviously came out like a Class A team should and showed up. And also the Bucks showed up and covered as well as another Class A that was off a loss.
Yeah, I definitely love the Laker game. We'll see if they can do it again tomorrow. Looking forward to watching that game. And as Rob said, we expected the Raptors to come out and show class as they're doing. And I'm looking forward to capping the games today.
Yeah, and I was thinking, guys, since we don't have a Saturday or Sunday show, and we got 4 games tomorrow, we'll kind of move quickly through these, and we'll get as many as we can, and we'll take an advance look at Saturday as well. We always look at that early game, but we got 3 later games as well. Tony, any final thoughts on Thursday overall? Anything surprise you? I mean, basically, the teams that we thought would come out strong pretty much did come out strong.
I was fortunate. I hit both of my plays yesterday. So, and I was going to mention, but you really already covered it, and that is Rob's had a pretty darn good NBA season, and for him to start whining about one day, we got to take him back and
humble.
Yeah, right. And then I want to say, and Ski's got a smile, and you can't ever tell. The only way you can tell if Ski's got kind of a swagger or maybe a pop in his step. as he talks a little more, his tongue's got the jump. So because he never hardly moves, it's kind of they say the Lakers won. We don't have to watch the game. We just know.
He's like a cat, though. He's got cat-like reflexes, and if you're not careful, he's ready to pounce. And he's right below you today, so be extra.
Won't be the first time.
Rob stepped out for a slight second at the intro just so I could pop ski underneath you. So I think they're working in cahoots. So be very careful. Both of them might be ganging up against you here. I'll tell you what, Tony, I'll keep it with you, though. We'll look at this daytime game, which goes in about an hour. Tips off at 4 Eastern. So all the live viewers here get a little bonus information on a game that tips in an hour here. We've got Nuggets and Jazz. I saw the Nuggets as like a 1.5-point favorite last night. It was 1 this morning. Now the Jazz are a 1-point favorite. So we've had a line reversal in this one, Tony. The Jazz have obviously looked better in the first 2 games, even though the series is 1-1.
Yeah, and there was a lot of accolades, a lot of people, pundits and teammates patting each other on the back after that Nuggets victory. Where in truth, in the grand scheme of things, guys, we look at this thing in a big picture. This very well could be Utah playing for a 3-0 lead. There's no way you can say that about Denver after last game, but you can surely say it about. And I think things have continued to get less than for Denver and have improved for the Jazz. I mean, less than is there was hopes that they might return Barton. Some of the things that you discussed, Steve, yesterday about those who are missing from the Nuggets right now that probably make them a lot better team, both offensively and defensively. That happens today when Conley being probable. I'm going to guess he's still listed as probable. I don't know what his minute's going to be or how he's going to contribute or what role they're going to put him in. I would think that Quinn Snyder wouldn't mess with too much of what he's had for the first 2 games. Been pretty successful. And I could mention to you, I'll take a lot of time, but Steve, I don't think it was you on the show. I can't remember who was doing the show. Maybe it was you. But we talked about the 3 of us or the 4 of us talked about coming out of the epidemic vacation that everyone had, including the NBA players, that there was going to be some teams that made some changes. Bogdanovich gone, that Quinn Snyder, I believe wholeheartedly that I had information that they were going to play at more pace. They were going to play faster. They were going to concentrate much less on defense. And if you look at the numbers and what they did in the bubble, we didn't talk about it a lot, but the 3-point shooting has increased. They've been less defensive and more offensive. Mitchell's been great. They were really pretty good in the bubble. I think everyone has had their flaws, but in the picture, Denver was good in the bubble. Denver hasn't been that good. I think they shot way above their pay grade in game 1. And I think you saw the real Denver. I think you saw a Utah team I think is better, albeit maybe not as deep, but better than the Nuggets. And I think they've proved that today.
Rob, do you think Mitchell continues? Would you be afraid if you're Snyder to get Conley involved more since Mitchell's been so good, at least in game 1, but then game 2 also?
I think it's a great point, and I think Ski was the one who made that point yesterday. Because, guys, if we just think back to the playoffs last year, the ball in Donovan Mitchell's hands, Utah had played all season that way. They played in the playoffs that way, and they were terrific when Donovan Mitchell had reins on that offense. Then they bring in Mike Conley, and it was really sporadic for a long, long time here. I mean, we often joked on the show, guys, about how Mike Conley was more of a deterrent to this offense than he was a help. And it's, it's kind of bad to say because Mike Conley's a great player. Yeah. Now Donovan Mitchell's had the ball in his hands for a couple of games. He's been terrific. And in the post-game interview, I mean, Donovan Mitchell was right there saying, "We need you back, Mike," and he was happy to have him back for game 3, or at least anticipate having him back for game 3. But I don't know how that works. Guys, when it's time to take over and the ball's in Donovan Mitchell's hands, to me, the Utah Jazz are still a better team. And I think there might be some disruption here. This line move, guys, tell me that the Nuggets don't go from -1.5 to +1 because of Mike Conley. Tell me there's another reason for that 2.5-point move, because it shouldn't be, guys. But we know that these line moves are based so heavily on injury information every single day, whether they be correct reaction or overreaction that's incorrect. If this move is towards Mike Conley, I don't think it's right. Denver's kind of in a cornered spot, so I'd probably look that way. But I think the bigger picture is, can Denver play any defense, and can this series ever go under in a game? It looks like a pure over series at this point.
Yeah, and Ski, I mean, most of these playoff series have been much lower scoring than the odds makers have anticipated. What are your thoughts on Conley? What are your thoughts on the total of this game in general?
I think Conley may disrupt the over. We'll see how he's involved, but I'm still not jumping in front of the over. Denver's went over 10 in a row. I'm not going to be the guy to come say under right now. So I agree with Rob on that. For the side, I'm just not a believer in this Jazz team. Versus better teams, I haven't seen them do too well. Their last 10 versus 55% win teams are better. They're 2-8 straight up. So
Wow.
I'm just not a believer in them. I think Denver, after that loss, they'll play better.
Yeah, I mean, the thing jumps out to me here is, the series is 1-1, but as we've all said, I mean, it really should be 0-2. Does Denver start bringing their number 3 seed game? They're the higher seed here, yet they're going off as a dog now, it looks like, in game 3. They were a 1.5-point favorite overnight, won this morning, now they're +1. So it does look like an adjustment with Conley.
I think we forgot. We've talked about this, but guys, in the playoffs, I was doing some research last night, and I found, and Utah's the home team, right? They're a home team. We're playing at altitude, right? It didn't matter. But the home teams have won 411 of the last 540 playoff games. So what do you want?
Yeah, well, I mean, that transitions well, actually. That actually transitions real well into our next game, Tony, because I mentioned this yesterday. The Sixers are a team I think that's going to be penalized more than any from the bubble because they're a do or die down 0-2. They would have been returning home to Philly where they're 29-2 straight up this year. But they're not. They're on a neutral court. They were 10-24 in true road games before the bubble. They haven't played great in the bubble. Tony, I think this is a textbook example where not having home court is going to really hurt a team. Now, I will say in handicapping world, when everybody writes somebody off, we all know that's usually a good play. But I personally don't want the Sixers here, Tony. Do you have any interest in them?
I don't have any. Well, my only interest in the Sixers is that I'm one of the few that, and most will disagree. Most people, I don't think everyone in the audience or our chat room, but most of the people in WagerTalk I know, they want to see Brown gone. They want to see a coaching change. They'd love to see an ownership change in this Philly. And I think Mid-Major Matt will be one of them. He just flashed his name up there. So I'm not that way. I like Brown. I think a lot of the issues that Philly has is personnel dependent or personnel reasons why. I'm not going to talk anymore. I've already taken up this time. I passed in this game simply because I've been wrong about. I'm wrong. I've been wrong about Philly, and I have no problem telling everyone who follows me I was wrong. And when I'm that wrong, I just get the hell out of the room. I get the hell out of the room and listen to some other people, and there's plenty of games to play.
Ski, what are your thoughts on that?
I think Tony's on track. I think he's definitely wrong about Brett Brown. I don't think Brett Brown's a good coach at all. I think that's a big difference in the coaching between Boston and Philly. Brett Brown's not going to make many adjustments. You can't trust Embiid in pick and roll defensive situations, and that's what he's going to see all night going against Kemba, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. So they've won. I mean, they've covered 8 of the last 9 without Hayward. I don't think they stopped now. They've covered 14 of the last 19 versus Philadelphia. They own Philly, and I think Brett Brown is on his way to an exit.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if we have any support. We're going to take an unofficial survey here over the next few minutes in the live chat. If there's anyone thinks Brett Brown can make an argument why he should keep the job, I'm kind of neutral on it. As I said earlier, Rob, I think these NBA coaches for the most part are just high-paid babysitters. You look at the LeBron situation the last few years. He's coaching those teams. Yeah. He's got a yes man basically on his side. Rob, one thing I will say about the Sixers, though, is they played hard in game 1. They led for a good amount of that game. I think there was a letdown in game 2 when they kind of had that near miss, like we've seen with the Nets today. The Nets had the near miss in game 2. Historically speaking, I like playing teams off a blowout loss in the playoffs. However, I like playing good teams off a blowout loss. So the question becomes, do you trust the Sixers here, or are they just going to toss the towel? This is why I would have liked to have had them at home, which is not what we have, of course.
Well, fundamentally, they have issues, right? When asked about their defensive strategy in the last game, Brett Brown, who said that they switched it up in the second half, and instead of playing that drop-down defense with Embiid, where we saw so much open space for this. In fact, Kemba Walker said he hasn't seen that much space in a long, long time to get off open shots. Brown was asked, could you have changed earlier? He said, yeah, maybe we could have changed earlier. But then Joel Embiid says, if I come up higher, we can do that. But all we'll do is scramble behind me to try and stop them behind me. So they're caught between a rock and a hard place defensively, in my estimation. What they can do, though, I mean, you're using binoculars to see if you can try and find a Tobias Harris sighting anywhere. For the money that guy's making, he's got to score some points. And Brett Brown made it a point to say, and I'll give you the quote right here, I think we can push the button more than we have been just on running, just getting out in the open floor. That's to get Tobias Harris involved. He said that's probably the number one thing. So look for Philly to run and try to get easy points to try and match up, because 101, which they've scored in each of the first two games, we see isn't going to get it done. No. And we knew they had a bad matchup with the Wings to start with, but now listening to the quotes and listening to Embiid talk about the problems that they have defensively, you just know Boston should be able to score again. It's the same total that's been hung for the first two games, basically. So maybe this one gets over. The first one, the second one did. I'm not sure that the first one did. I can't quite remember, but I know game two did. And maybe it gets over again here with Philly running and Boston just having offensive advantages. Brad Stevens kind of has his choice of how he wants to score points with this team. And they've got Philly in a bit of a bind.
Yeah, total's around 216.5. As you said, that was the total for game one, which they totaled 210. They bumped it down 4 points for game two. It was 212.5. They put up 229, largely due to Boston's output, of course. In fact, the Sixers have exactly 101 points in both games so far. We'll see how it turns out here. You know, nothing surprises me anymore. It's hard to make a case for Philly, and that's often sometimes some of the best bets you can make. So we'll see what happens.
You know what the case is, Steve? The case is they're down 0-2, and you can't go down 0-3. So they are in a desperate situation. But from somebody who thought that they were in a desperation situation the other night and they would show some sense of urgency, and they may cover here. I'm just tired of banging my head against the brick wall with them.
Yeah, I think the bigger question, too, isn't if they come out hard. I think it's if Boston lets up after the easy win and up to 2-0. You know, if the Celtics bring their A game, the Sixers don't, as you said, they don't match up with the Celtics A game. I think it's more of a question, do you think Boston stays focused and goes for the sweep? If this game is in Philly, as I keep going back to, those road teams do let down normally, but then again, this is the bubble. Hey, guys, I want to let everybody know, by the way, I've got a 5%er going in the NBA playoffs today for Friday. At WagerTalk. So once again, go there. I'm 2-0. I've only released 2 5%ers since I've been at WagerTalk all month. They both won in the NBA. So it's a good time to get it. Tony, what you got going on today at WagerTalk.com?
I have one baseball, and I have 2 NBA propositions, 2 NBA plays, and both. I like them both. I like my MLB. I had a good day yesterday. Let's hope we can continue it. The NBA really has been pretty good to me since the restart. So I don't know any reason why they would fire Brown. I say keep him.
Yes, it's been pretty good for us handicap these games with all the let's keep everything the way it is. Let's keep it in the bubble. We're all I think we're all having a winning NBA restart so far. Ski, what you got going for Friday?
I have a best bet in the NBA, and I did have a WNBA free play. I'll let you guys know. I'm on the Mercury if you guys want to tell that. So that's what I'm
nice. And I'll pop that up here in a second. So you got free play in the Mercury and the WNBA. And let me find the start time on that. What time's the is that a night game, Ski? So they got some time to see the analysis?
Yeah, I believe it's about like 7.
Okay, nice. So once again, not only do we have best bets, but more importantly for a lot of you who are building your bankroll and just starting, free plays as well, both WagerTalk and SportsMemo. We're also doing free play videos now. So if you'd like to see in-depth analysis, I'll actually be doing one for baseball. I've got a free baseball play up, and I think right after the show here, I'm going to try to knock out that recording. So we have some free play videos as well. Rob, what you got going Friday night at WagerTalk.com?
I have 2 NBA best bets going tonight, Steve, and like I said earlier, one in the bag. And when Freddie Van Vliet threw in that, beyond half quarter to end the first half, I thought to myself, you know what? Your day is going to be good, buddy. So let's look for 2 more good ones here tonight. 2 things I want to say real quick. Tony Finn, who won't mention it himself, but I did see it spread all over Twitter this morning, how great he's been in the month of August. He's built your bankroll better than anybody at WagerTalk for the month of August. So Round of
Listen, but
applause.
my
for Tony up
bankroll,
there.
if my bankroll is not good enough. So when you start telling people that kind of things, they just say, "Yeah, Tony's got enough." So, no, I
Cheer
need
for
more.
Tony.
That's right.
Last
I mean,
thing, real quick,
Thank
Steve.
you, Rob.
I just want to mention real quick that I'm sure all of us send our best to Teddy Covers, who's not with us today because he's dealing with a family situation. But hopefully all's well with TC. We'll have him back next week, I think.
that'd be awesome. Yeah, definitely giving our shout out to our cohort here on the show, and maybe we'll throw some quotes in today if you guys can find some for him. But yeah, all of us have been doing very well. Teddy's been red hot as well, by the way, at Wager Talk. I mean, just red hot, as hot as anybody. Tony, red hot. Ski, WNBA, as you mentioned, has been good for you overall this year. He's got a free play. It's just a great time to go there. Get some specials. There's promos going on all the time. Of course, this next week, $9 Monday, $2 Tuesday is a great way to start the week. But once again, free plays are up there. And Ski's got one on the Mercury tonight, the WNBA. You can get his analysis right there at WagerTalk.com. By the way, my 5%er is in the daytime game here. It goes in about a half hour. So if you're watching this live, that's a little bonus for you live viewers. Go get that. Rob and Tony have some nighttime action, as does Ski as well. WagerTalk.com. And, guys, we're going at a good pace here. So we'll knock out this night game, and that'll give us a chance then to get into some of the Saturday games, a little bonus handicapping for the viewers since we won't be here this week. And a reminder, we're back Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific here for NBA tip-off each and every weekday at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. MLB First Pitch Weekend Edition, bonus episodes this weekend at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So once again, baseball both Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And then, of course, the UFC In-Fight live show around 6, 7 p.m. Eastern, whenever the first bout goes this week. And Andy Lang will be here all night with some great free in-fight wagers. He hit it, by the way, I think he hit an 11-1 underdog in that show last week, he told me. So just some great value. And it's a fun show, very laid back, chat rooms popping. Tony Finn and I might make an occasional cameo as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, Tony loves in-fight, in-wagering in general. Guys, night game here. Clippers, who I've used in the first two games. They treated me well in the first game. I was a little lucky there. The second game, they did not treat me well. I personally feel like they'll bounce back here. I'm not using this as my best bet. Once again, my 5% play is on the daytime game, which goes here in a little bit. But I still lean towards the Clippers here, -5. It's a shorter number, Tony, even though they got blown out in game 2. I mean, there's two ways to look at that. They're a Class A team. They're the co-favorite to win the conference. They should bounce back like the Lakers and Bucks did yesterday. Or you look at the fact that the Mavericks have really outplayed them in both games, and if Porzingis doesn't get ejected, they're probably up 2-0 in this series.
There's a lot of ways to look. You couldn't be more spot on. There's a lot of ways to look at this. I have questions. I watched last night. I particularly watched this tape. I watched the game, parts of it that I isolated and pinpointed, and did it without have it edited. Without the timeout, all that kind of stuff. And I was surprised. And I want to get some feedback from you guys before I finish with this game. We saw something I never thought we'd see, or at least I never thought I would see, from Doc Rivers and this team. And they played a zone for a while against the Mavericks. And I don't know if you guys noticed that or whether it was brought to your attention, but they went into a zone scheme. This is arguably, in my opinion, one of the best man for man Clippers defensively skill set, what they can do, especially if Patrick Beverley's on the floor and Kawhi. They went into a zone. Did you guys see this? Do you have an opinion on that? Did I have too much tequila? Am I hallucinating?
I didn't see it, but
go ahead, Ski.
You go for it because you probably saw it.
Well, I'm just going to say that I think, Tony, it was in part because of what you mentioned at the tail end there. Pat Beverley was not involved.
I thought it was a tequila. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Pat Beverley wasn't in the game the other day, and Trey Burke was consistently beating Clipper guards off the dribble and getting into the lane, whether it be for layups or kickouts for threes, which they were making the other night. So the zone may have been some kind of prevention against the perimeter defense, just getting beaten into the paint so frequently. Beverley makes a difference.
Yes,
I see him listed as doubtful here tonight. Doesn't mean the Clippers can't win and cover without him. But still, he makes a huge difference. They're going to need a little more offensive help from Paul George in this game. Paul George did not play well offensively the other night.
That was kind. That's a kind way to put it.
Steve, I know
Really?
you had him, so you probably saw it too. I mean, he just didn't play up to par, but you expect some bounce backs. I'll say this. Last night, the Lakers were cornered, down 0-1. They responded big. Milwaukee was cornered, down 0-1. They responded big. To me, the Clippers are cornered tonight, 1-1. You don't want to be down 2-1 to this Mavs team. Not that they would fear it, but the way the first two have gone, Clippers might get a little shaky, upstairs if they were to lose again tonight. So I think you'd probably see a real nice bounce back effort out of the Clips in this one.
Yeah, Ski, I mean, what jumps out to me here is that my handicap and intuition for decades now in the NBA is to always look for the bounce back. Not necessarily the zigzag. I don't blindly play the loser of every game, but I use a moderated zigzag, as we've discussed, and I like playing Class A teams off a loss, especially a bad loss. The Clippers fit that situation here tonight, yet they've been outplayed in the first two games overall. So how do you look at this one?
I agree completely. They definitely fit that situation, the Clippers. And the Mavs, they're like the opposite. When they win a game, and they kind of like let down, especially when they play better opponents. So I think this is a game where, I mean, the Clippers, I think they may have been a little embarrassed, maybe. And I don't think they're going to let the 21-year-old kid show them up again. So I would be looking at the Clippers. And I think if they're going to do it, they do it defensively.
Yep.
So I think it'll be under.
Yeah, I was just going to say this is a big total, and you could definitely make a case that a side total parlay are somewhat correlated here. We don't normally, recommend parlays, but Clippers -5 and under 231.5, I think makes a little bit of sense here. And these games, for the most part, have been staying under, and playoff basketball has more defensive intensity. So, yeah, if the Clippers bring the defense, I think that's the one matchup edge they have in this series. And I love where you're going with that, Ski, too. It's not a coincidence. The Mavericks are a young team. Luka's, 19, almost 20 years old. Bazinga's pretty young as well. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, you could see those type of teams letting down more than anything. What do you think, Tony?
Well, I do. I agree with that. And no one will make the point. I read the quotes from the Dallas team after their win. And the quotes are from young kids. Essentially, Porzingis said we should be the favorites in the series. That's what he basically said. We should be the favorites in the series. We should have won. We probably would have won game one had I not exited. Pretty humble guy. And then there's in truth, game two was a combination of Paul George not being very good. The Clippers in general, overall, other than Kawhi not looking like they were focused. But Seth, the bench of Dallas, outplayed. Seth Curry. They were 30 points better with Seth Curry in the game. It wasn't Porzingis who they were even with during the game. It was the bench that contributed, and I think everyone but Kid Gilchrist was far superior to the second unit of the Clippers, which should never happen. Never. This Clippers team is deep there. This second unit will beat a lot of the NBA teams or play hard with their first unit. So that said, I agree with you guys. This is a better team, a deeper team, a little energy, a little of that swag that Mr. Prophet has, and I think the Clippers are better tonight and win and cover.
Yeah, I would say if the Clippers don't show up tonight, I'd be concerned in L.A. They were concerned in L.A. after the Lakers lost. Maybe they're feeling a little better now that they showed up last night. But the other L.A. team, I don't want to say it's in a must-win situation, but if they play bad again, I'd start getting a little concerned that they're not going to turn things around. You guys, we got some extra time here, which is awesome here. We can do the Saturday games. So we got 4 more games tomorrow. Let's look at the early one, Bucks Magic. Bucks now a 12-point favorite, so the line's a little bit shorter. The Magic had a historically awful first quarter. What were they, 3 for 24? I think it was the second worst shooting percentage like in a couple thousand playoff games or something in the first quarter. Rob, how do you handicap this one? Milwaukee obviously got back on track. My gut feeling is that they probably keep that momentum going. But Orlando, we've talked about offensively challenged, and they were offensively challenged yesterday.
Yeah, I'm going to backtrack just real quick here, Steve, to what Tony was saying. The Dallas bench outscores the Clippers 47-37 the other night, which, as he mentioned, should never happen because all we do is talk about how deep the Clippers are.
Yeah.
And one other thing real quick here. I want to go all the way back to the Boston-Philadelphia game. And maybe Ski and Tony will add to this. But the fact that Kemba Walker has a day off between every single game now to keep him fresh so that they don't have to rest him with that knee. He seems to be fantastic. So I wouldn't expect Kemba to slow down either. A lot of times guys are asking for fantasy players. Kemba Walker looks like a guy with the day of rest in between every game. that is going to do just fine throughout the playoffs here. He looks pretty good to me. As far as Milwaukee tomorrow goes, I thought it was interesting last night, guys. I turned on ESPN Sports Center and I hear Tim Legler saying how he couldn't get to the window fast enough to make his bet on Milwaukee minus the points.
Nice.
Here's your analyst, your NBA analyst, telling you that he knew the outcome and he couldn't bet it fast enough. And the rest of the series, according to Tim Legler, is not going to change. Milwaukee's just going to put together 4 routes. No disrespect to Orlando, as he put it, but it'll be over in 5 games. I look at it this way real quick, and Steve, I'm going to repeat what you just said about Orlando's lousy offensive first quarter. To put both of those together, I think Milwaukee offensively is there. And against Orlando, I think they can get 60 a half, at least in the first half. It doesn't seem problematic for them to score against this team at this point. Orlando puts together anything in the first half, and I was looking at the first half total earlier. It was 111. I think the first half is going to go over. Milwaukee may, we've talked about teams relaxing a little bit. After that defensive performance, takes a lot of energy out of you. And in the route, I think it only is natural to think that, hey, we're so much better than these guys. Maybe they don't come with the defensive intensity in the first half. So just sitting here now, at 3:30 in the afternoon Eastern time, my first look is towards over first half in that game tomorrow.
Yeah, Ski, I mean, what are your thoughts here? Obviously, it's the shortest number of the 3 games so far. My initial thought is that I don't think Milwaukee comes in flat. It's still 1-1, and they know that Orlando could beat them.
Yeah, but, I mean, to start that game, just like Rob said, they came out with the defense. I mean, Orlando only scored, 13 points in that first quarter. After that, the game was pretty much over. And Orlando scored, 30 points the next quarter, 30 points the quarter after that. So if they take their foot off the gas on the defensive end just a little bit, I do agree that I think the game starts to go over. And to Rob's point that Orlando starts off slow, I agree. And I think Milwaukee's still up by a decent amount of half, so probably Milwaukee first half and that over.
Yeah, Tony, 3 of the 4 games last night, we saw a team score 111 points exact. So far in this series, Milwaukee scored 110 and 111. A little bit lower scoring, like we've been saying, than the bubble games. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, you guys, I think Orlando is one of the least offensively efficient teams, even though some of their numbers speak different to that. This is a team that we all agree Clifford doesn't want to win with offense. He's a defensive first coach. This club, this squad, first, second unit, all the first half of the NBA season won with defense. And here's the issue. If Orlando does anything offensively, if they play above their pay grade, they're tough because they can defend and they can do those things. And when they score, they're even more confident. You saw that in game 1. They came out where they hit their first 8 to 9 shots, 9 or 10 shots. And Milwaukee, and let's just be honest, Milwaukee's not used to playing from behind, not for an entire game. They won a heck of a lot of games this year, and they didn't do it coming from behind. So I think if I'm Clifford, I find a way to get some easy early looks, get my team some confidence, and maybe we can hang tough. But I'm kind of with you guys. You guys are saying over. I mentioned yesterday, we talked about this game. Remember I said that the times that these two had played, there was twice Orlando did not break 100 points. And not once during the regular season did these two exceed the total they're putting for this game. Or 225, 227 yesterday, 225 in game 1, 227 yesterday. Orlando's offensively challenged, guys. Come on, they can't shoot 3. They're challenged. But if they hit their shots, this game goes over. If they play their season averages, and Milwaukee plays their season averages, I would lean to the under. So your decision is, how is Orlando going to play?
It's a pretty big total when you consider that the Magic have shot 42% or worse in 5 of their last 7 games now.
Yes.
And you're asking the game to go over 226. I mean, the odds makers are making it a tough call. But then again, Milwaukee could put up, a ton of points.
They could. Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's a two-way market, right, guys? 50-50. That's the early game, by the way, Saturday at 1 Eastern, a little bit earlier than we normally see at 1 p.m. Eastern. The other daytime game tomorrow on Saturday, we'll do some quick hits on these other 3 games. And then the Sunday games, of course, are what we just talked about for Friday. So I think a lot of that information transfers over. We have Pacers Heat. I mentioned how Indiana and Philly really were at a disadvantage not being able to go back home down 0-2. I didn't realize till later last night when I was looking at it closer, Indiana was actually the higher seed in that series, and I did not even realize that, because the seeding doesn't matter, obviously, in the neutral court. Miami's been favored in both games by 4 to 5 points, but technically Indiana would be on the road now down 0-2. So Miami is the 5 seed. Rob, do you think the Pacers have any chance of getting back in this series? It looks like it's been all heat so far.
Well, we don't have any injury information in this game as of yet. So that aside, I still think that Indiana has a chance to get back in the series. I know Nate McMillan's the type of coach that won't let his team quit. So it's not going to be a rollover job from Indiana. Miami, clearly, when they have all cylinders going, they're the better team. I don't think there's a question. But Indiana has the components down 0-2. If they take it that way, down 0-2, can't go down 0-3 and come with their best effort. Their best effort not only could hang within the point spread, but could win a game. I wouldn't expect a Miami sweep with a completely healthy Indiana team. So without doing a lot of in-depth look at it so far, Steve, I would say Indiana plus the points. If I just look at what's going on in the first couple of games here, Miami has shot outstanding from 3-point range. Duncan Robinson was big last night, but they've shot 44, almost 45% from 3. And if they're going to shoot 45% from 3, then you're not going to beat them. So Indiana's going to have to play the perimeter a little bit better. I still think there's enough talent on this team to get a cover. Never mind a straight-up win, because unless we're all playing money lines on the dog, then there's no reason to worry about the straight-up win. But I think plus points here, Indiana might be worth a shot tomorrow. If ever there's a shot, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, Ski, I meant to go back before the show and check. I have a gut feeling that every team that's won's covered so far. I couldn't think of one offhand that hasn't in the playoffs. I might be missing one or so. But basically, yeah, you pick up – if you like the Pacers here plus the points, Ski, you probably like their chance to win the game outright, even though it's plus 5. Do you think they get back in the series on Saturday?
Well, one thing I don't trust – there's a few things. But I don't trust the Pacers to score in the clutch, because we've seen it 2 games already. In the fourth quarter, they just go kind of dry. And the second thing I don't trust the bench. It's really when the bench comes in, I think they have trouble scoring. I think we see the game start off, they're fine scoring, then a couple of these bench guys come in, and they can't find a basket. They're playing hot potato with the rock. So I trust Miami to get baskets at the end of the game. So I would be looking at Miami. If I like Indiana, only way I'm taking them is early in the first half.
Tony, what are your thoughts on this one? Game 3, the Heat a 5-point favorite, 214's the total right now.
I like the Heat from the outset in this game. I like the Heat and what they did in the bubble. And for a long time during the regular season, the first half of the season, I fought the Heat. I fought my instincts or my judgment or my gut, because in the mornings I never know whether it's a good feeling or whether it's just gas. So I had to make that assertion, and it's difficult sometimes. However, Miami's proved to me that they're not the one-trick pony I thought they might be, and only playing good in the humidity of South Florida. Butler's like him or dislike him. He's an enigma to some degree, but he's a character that does stuff on the basketball that's intangible. And what he's done so far for this team is really help them win and be more confident, physical. Not that they need any help being physical, and Bam, you have to like Miami. You have to like their ceiling. You really have to like their ceiling, at least in the first and second round.
So, Rob, we'll do a couple quick hits here. We got a few minutes left, guys. Any thoughts here on the 2 evening games? We'll start with Rockets and Thunder. 14-0 run. Did my play on the Thunder in yesterday. I was looking pretty good there for half the game. But that's how the Rockets are. What's surprising, though, of course, both Westbrook and Harden were not on the court when they went on the 14-0 run. I think that might be a bad sign for the Thunder if these other players, these role players, keep stepping up like that. What do you think, Rob?
And what you run into is Oklahoma City's just lack of pure scores. Dennis Schroeder, again, was bad offensively. He's got to be better for this team because they don't have, the other side has Harden and Gordon And both of those guys are far superior to any one person that Oklahoma City has for scoring. So they have to get cheap baskets. They have to play defense. Second half, what they score, guys? Did they get the 40 points in the second half yesterday? I don't think they did. And that kind of is what did them in. I criticized Billy Donovan a little bit for playing kind of slow ball in the first game. They came out a little quicker first half, but disappeared in the second half yesterday. So I don't know. Again, it's a team that's down 2-0. And if you're ever going to get 100% of their fight, it's when they're down 2-0. Oklahoma City might have enough, but heck, Houston launched, I think, 56 more threes yesterday.
Yeah.
And if every shot you take just about is going to be a three, you don't have to make a monster percentage to score a lot of points. They got to 111 yesterday without shooting all that great from three-point range. So OKC's got to get easy points here, guys. I think situationally they're in a good spot because they're cornered somewhat. But fundamentally, right now it looks like they don't match up with the Houston Rockets.
Yes, Ski, they win the game by 13 points, and they get outshot 44 to 41% or 42%. But they had only 7 turnovers, so they took care of the ball. I mean, you got to give Houston credit. They don't change the way they play. They live and die by it. They live and die by the three, Ski.
Yeah, definitely. But don't look now. Houston Rockets playing defense.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm not used to. I got to give them credit. I'll talk a lot about them not playing defense over the years, and that's something I noticed. Also, I'll give credit to Mike D'Antoni because I think they played zone in the first game, and that flustered OKC. And I have to take I don't like what Billy Donovan is doing. They went on 2 giant runs last game. One right out of halftime, 11-0, Houston. You don't get a timeout. You don't get anything. And then the next one, 14-0 run, I think. You don't get a timeout. You don't make any subs. You leave the same guys who can't score out there. So I'm not quite sure what he's doing. I trust Houston Rockets right now to score. James Harden's doing what he's been doing for the past few years. He's even playing defense. So if Harden's playing defense and scoring like he's scoring, it's hard to stop the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, Tony, I mean, I don't feel like the Thunder are going to quit down 0-2, but also not sure the matchup works for them as well. What do you think here? Right now we're seeing the Rockets as about a 3-point favorite. It's the biggest it's been so far in the series.
It was a Monday show when we were talking about this game, or Tuesday, I don't remember what it was, and Teddy asked me a question point blank, and I think it hurt his feelings, and it's hard to hurt Teddy's feelings.
Not when it's coming from you.
And I said to him, OKC, they cannot play small ball with this team. Ski mentioned maybe they should run, maybe they should push the pace. I don't think they play small ball, not with their Harden. And what they're doing well, what they can do well, doesn't phase this Houston team. I mean, Dort, give this rookie credit. This kid looks like he's going to be a great defensive player. And I saw him make a 3. But I think when he's in there, you sacrifice offense. And you cannot sacrifice offense. If you're going to defend Houston, you have to figure out a way to do that without sacrifice offense, or you can't keep pace with them. And in this situation, they won without Harden's best. Yeah, and they won, they did it without Harden's best. And if you're going to do that, you have to win. You have to win if you're going to win a series, right? And they just don't have the bit. They don't have enough in the paint to shine, be a brighter star than what Houston does small ball wise. And unfortunately, Ski's going to start calling Houston a defensive team, which is making me, makes some bad taste come up out of the back of my throat. But because I don't think they are, but they did look pretty damn good winning this game without Harden's best.
Yeah, keep in mind, coming into the series, they were the only team that was less than a minus 280 favorite to win the series. They were the only one that was less than 1-3, basically. There was only minus 155. Thunder went off as a slight favorite, or started as a slight favorite in game 1 even, I believe, and now they're a 3-point dog. Last couple minutes here, guys, and we'll look at the premier game for Saturday night. They do have a line on this one. They didn't have one overnight because, the injury, but now it's 7. Lakers a 7-point favorite. They opened 5.5 in games 1 and 2. We're bet up to minus 6.5 in both games. Rob, as we know, they came out flat in game 1, down 11 after the first quarter. They outscored them by 4 the final 3 quarters. Came out strong last night. So if you really take out that first quarter of game 1, the Lakers have actually been pretty good in this series. It's hard to know what the Blazers have left. They've been through basically a playoff series or two already just to get here. And now, their star player has an injury to his left non-shooting hand, but it still could affect the shot with Damian Lillard's index finger, I guess, or is his pinky? I think it's his index. Rob, how are you looking at this one? I know we'll have to get more information tomorrow probably on the injury, but he's expected to play. It's his left hand, it's non-shooting hand, but pretty ugly injury still.
Yeah, even non-shooting hand affects the shot a little bit, Steve. I don't know how drastically it will affect Damian Lillard's shot, but they'll need C.J. McCollum to step up. Ski's pointed out more than once that he's got a little bit of a fractured back going on, so it's hard to depend on a guy, but he's certainly for one game can step up. Trent, Anthony, Nurkic, all these guys, if Lillard isn't 100%, are going to have to help out here. Found it interesting last night, guys, that there were hardly any free throws shot in this game. 16 by one side, 10 on the other side. Nobody going to the free throw line. Lakers shot better. If they're going to shoot that well, that's really all they have to shoot. As I look here, they shot 47%. If they shoot 47%, it's got to be very, very hard for Portland. Anthony Davis took over that game last night, only had to play 3 quarters to do so. Boy, I don't know. The defense looked really, really good, and Portland looked a little bit confused. And once Lillard got hurt, they were already down 30 anyway, so I don't know that that's any bit of an excuse for the Trailblazers. I think there'll be an offensive bounce back from them. They're too good of an offensive team to, produce as few points as they did last night. But if Lillard's not right, it's going to take a huge effort to get past the Lakers, who probably have a little bit of confidence right now.
Yeah, no, Tony, I'm going to get you first because I want to get Ski's thoughts last since he's our Laker insider. 30 seconds or so, though. Just give me your quick thoughts on Lakers Blazers, how you're approaching it.
Real quickly, I heard an interview, listened to it. It was sent to me and I didn't get to see it, but I heard it, and it was Lillard, and they were interviewing him and said, I asked him, "Are you going to play?" And he said, "Of course I'm going to play." And he said, "Well, how well can you play?" He said, "Well, I'm just going to play left-handed, and I'm going to play left-handed and be better than the Lakers." That's all I have to say. And that really, I'm not telling the truth there. I'm fibbing a little bit, but he's going to shoot left-handed.
Ski,
bad hand.
I think the other big takeaway too is, what do the Blazers have left in the tank? They were run through the gauntlet, had to win the play-in game on that Saturday. The Lakers did not have to play hard for 4 months, basically, and they came out down 11. I keep saying in the first quarter, but they've outscored them since. I don't see them taking their foot off the gas. Ski, do you?
I do not see the Lakers taking their foot off the gas. And the Blazers are wounded warriors. I mean, like you said, how much do they have left in the tank? They've already been through a couple series, like you said, and they're worn down. Lillard's hurt. McCollum's hurt. And you're starting to see it. I wouldn't expect that many points because if you're going to get those points, those are the 2 guys who are doing it. And yes, they're a great offensive team, but you're going up against one of the best defensive teams. So
as long as Kuzma gets his 13.5 points, the Lakers are just fine.
I don't think he got him last time.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did that turn out? I forgot to check.
No, he didn't get him last time because they didn't have to play. They just blew him out the water. So
yeah, that's the thing is it was such a blowout early on. A lot of the numbers get skewed to the downside.
I just had to throw that in.
By the way, the total guys 225. Keep in mind the first game went under by like 40 points. The second game last night obviously was a blowout, so the points weren't as important down the stretch. They took their foot off the gas, but these 2 games soaring under the total. 234, they got 193. 227.5. They got 199 last night. So 193 and 199 so far. And now we see a total of it's adjusted down, but 225 with one of the best offensive players in the league injured on his non-shooting hand. So we'll see what happens on the total there. Hey, speaking of in-show wagers in the last 30 seconds here, anybody, any givers, any takers for any of these Friday or Saturday action?
Me and Tony can keep fighting. We've already done the series. We've done the game every time. I'm going to take Denver. He can take Utah.
You want to do pick-ups?
How many points do you need to cover that?
What's the line right now?
Well, they've gone from -1.5 to +1, Ski. So
it's not what the odds. I need to know how many points do you need
I'm
to
actually
cover
seeing
this
some
bet?
You guys, I'm actually seeing some 1.5s and even a 2 out there now. The Jazz are about a 1.5 point favorite now.
Money line, Tony. Money line.
Money line? Okay, I'm gonna give you Saul Buck and I'm gonna give you +150 on the money because Utah's at home.
That's fair. And the line at Utah is about a 1.5 point favorite in their game time here. So Ski's got the Nuggets +150 pick 'em, Tony giving them a good line as he always does, as the gentleman that he is on this show at least. He's got the Jazz pick 'em. And guys, we'll leave it at that. Hey, no weekend shows, but we just covered all 4 Saturday games for you. We covered the Sunday games as well because those are the 4 games going here on Friday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday action concisely done here. You, of course, can watch the replays and keep checking this information all weekend long at YouTube on the replay. And we'll be back live at 3 p.m. Eastern and noon Pacific on Monday for your next live edition of NBA Tip-Off. Bonus shows for baseball this weekend, as I've mentioned a few times, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. For the bonus baseball shows on Wager Talk TV, and then the MMA live show Saturday night here as well with Andy Lang. Hey, guys, great show as always. Go to WagerTalk.com right now for strong best bets from each and every one of us. Also, free plays available at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. I'm Steve Merrill signing off for Tony Finn, Ski Prophet, Rob Vino, and our boy Teddy Covers. Don't forget, have a great weekend. Best of luck as always, and we'll be back Monday live, 3 Eastern and noon Pacific for more NBA.